Redbeard has made his way back to the game, remaining as the game's first limited priest. The question now, what does he bring to the table? We'll talk about what makes him unique, his stat line, and more. Redbeard's inheritable skill is Prayer of Rebellion. He provides attack power and resistance to one row of allies for 3 turns. There is some nuance to this ability, despite being simple on paper. First, to clarify, this ability only applies attack power, which does not increase magic power attacks like spells. Second, it's possible to have more than one attack power buff at the same time. These are my fighters casting Warrior's Battlecry, followed by Prayer. We can see that they have 2 attack buffs ongoing. If this ability is used by anyone besides Redbeard, it is weaker and lasts a turn less. You could give Prayer to Alice to negate the turn loss, but it'll still have the weaker version of the attack buff and the resistance. His personal skill is Apostle Breaking. Redbeard increases insta-kill, skill binding, and spell binding tolerance for adjacent dark allies. While hard to quantify, this skill is not too valuable at this point in time. There just isn't enough dark units to make this shine. His discipline is Traitor to Gods, focusing on divine power and attack power. If you want to invest vertically into Redbeard, both stats are great to increase his damage output. However, either inheriting Prayer or increasing the level of Prayer on himself would be a good bit more versatile in my opinion. Stat-wise, Redbeard competes with Valdor with the highest strength among priests. In fact, both their stat lines are pretty similar. Every other stat he has is not as high as another priest that's currently in the pool. The huge upside Redbeard has is being neutral, making him extremely flexible team building wise. If Alice's class changed, Redbeard can take the backline priest slot, or stay in the front line with Lana even as a priest himself. With everything I've covered so far, I'll give my thoughts on Redbeard. He's an interesting priest. He has tough competition with Alice, but has the ability to buff attack power when fighters are extremely potent late game with full power strike. However, you can start buying scrolls of shared power sometime in the second abyss, which is an attack buff consumable. Yes, it'll cost gold and a few actions to buff a row, one Redbeard could do it for free, but the fact that it's possible to recreate this important buff he provides isn't a good look for him. If you have a heavily invested Alice with disciplines, pulling a new priest is always going to be a hard sell. However, if you haven't gotten lucky with Alice, he makes a great addition to a roster. At this point in time, Redbeard also doesn't have a class change option. Ideally, he'd get Fighter or Knight to complement his stat line. All in all, he's a much harder unit to recommend pulling compared to Shelly, especially since in June the Samurai class is being released with presumably a new unit to pull. If you have any questions about Redbeard or anything else you want to see, let me know. Thank you for watching, and until then.